Welcome to the Pixelated Realms, your guide through the digital landscape, untangling the mysteries of your favorite titles and discussing the latest and greatest in video game fun. I'm your host, Alex Salerno, and alongside me is my brother, Tyler.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back.
Hey, we're here for episode number 5, and I, it's actually kind of nice. I feel like we're in a little bit of a release pause, so it's like kind of that time where you can catch up on your backlog
Yeah,
a little bit.
it's that in like it's been so many releases lately, so like having a little break has been nice, but still, like, I've been so occupied and I have a lot of exciting things to talk about. Like, for example, that we just got the new DLC for Cyberpunk 2077. We got Mortal Kombat 1 coming out. We've been playing Starfield. We've been playing Monster Hunter now a little bit. We'll talk about that a touch. So lots of things to discuss.
Yeah, and the Monster Hunter Now thing, I was not really expecting that one. I
Yeah.
I had heard about it and stuff like that, and you're like, hey, like download it and try it. And if you don't know, it's basically like Pokemon Go, but Monster Hunter, and it's by Niantic, same guys. And I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't like love Pokemon Go even now. I think like
Yeah.
I've played it. Don't get me wrong, I played it a lot, and occasionally when I was out, I'd like catch Pokemon and stuff like that. But it felt like just like a grind fest for no reason. Like I felt like there was no like reward, right?
Right.
The
I mean,
reward,
the battle system wasn't fleshed out like for years. And there's a lot of little things that they really had to fix before it became like even like, decent.
I I mean, I don't know if it's even there for me because like the battle system is not good enough to hold the weight of the game on it, and
Yeah.
like the gyms were not that great in my opinion, and so like it just didn't. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that like it, so don't get me wrong. This is just my opinion, but nothing like hooked me. Like it felt like a lot of really good ideas that didn't really fulfill what their intentions were. And then, so this one came out, and I was like, all right, maybe I'll give it a shot. But I wasn't expecting to really like it that much. But it takes a totally different approach on kind of like what you're doing, and it's more of like, in Monster Hunter, you have your hunter, and you're trying to get better gear, and then you're going out to defeat monsters to get materials to build better gear to continue the cycle, basically.
Right.
And in this one, instead of trying to catch Pokemon, you're defeating monsters and stronger monsters to build, and then you get the crafting components, and then you can build better gear, and then you can fight, bigger and better monsters, and so on and so forth. And that cycle seems a lot more fun to me than like, oh, catching this rare Pokemon and then diving through his stats for an hour to see if he's worth keeping or not. Like, I don't. I'm not really like a stat junkie like that. Like trying to mega optimize.
Well,
My
I think it kind of goes to like why you play those different. Like, to me, like I loved Pokemon Go because I thought there was something fun about the idea of like walking around and like collecting the Pokemon, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I get out, I get a walk and like get some exercise, and then, oh hey, this Pokemon I've been looking for, I found. I think to me that was like the most fun part of Pokemon Go, and like the community part that kind of came with it, like almost like, as just circumstance. I thought that's a whole nother story. But like, I thought it was fun to like collect the Pokemon, right? But
Yeah.
Monster Hunter, I saw it come out on the store, and I was just like, why not? I'll give it a shot. Like, no harm in it. I just wanted an excuse to go out and get some more, exercise. And you're right. It does take like a different approach, and I think there's like some good and bad to that. Like, so I like the idea that you're walking around and like there's different biomes all over your neighborhood, right? So sometimes you're like walking in a desert, sometimes you're walking in, a forest. Like, I think that's kind of like cool, like
Yeah.
give you some like reason to walk other places. You still have like the Pokemon Go style like stops where you like collect items and stuff. But then you get the bit, you discover these large monsters that you can actually tag for later and like fight them when you're sitting on your couch. But that kind of goes to like the part of the game that's a little, it's I don't know if this is a complaint, but it's just different in the sense that like I'm trying to go for a walk, and so like I find myself like stopping a lot. Like I'm
Yeah,
like sitting there stopping, fighting a freaking monster, like, and like it's fine, but like it's I, honestly, like I would almost prefer to like just sit there and tag the monsters with the mechanics called paintballs. So I'll almost just sit there and paintball the monster,
yeah,
continue my walk, and then go home and fight them. You know,
yeah.
because like
Which you can do totally.
right. So I mean, I'm glad they put that in there, and I'm starting to, I think I'm like rank 16 or 17 right now, and they don't give you all your weapons first. Like they just give you one weapon. Anyone who's played the Monster Hunter games knows that like you're just kind of like inundated with a variety of different weapon choices. In this, they start you off slow, and then they start introducing more and more.
Yeah,
And part of the fun of this game has been like, okay, like this weapon and is good, but like this weapon's way different. Like I just unlocked the bow, and it's like a totally different like play style in this game.
yeah,
So I think that's kind of fun. Like, and the monsters are finally getting harder to that point where it like does take some like effort. You know,
yeah.
but once again, if I'm on a walk and I'm trying not to get like hit by a car or something, like it's not like perfect. In
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sense,
Well,
you got to be extra careful.
yeah, you do have to be extra careful, and I think it even tells you that before you start a fight. It's like, hey, make
Yeah,
sure you're in a safe place because
yeah,
you could
totally.
easily like forget what you're doing. But I mean, yeah, like you actually fight the monsters in this one as opposed to just rapidly throwing a ball at
Yep.
a Pokemon. So it's like you have to dodge, you have special abilities, you have attacks and stuff that you can do, and there's like weak spots on them. So I feel like it's a lot more engaging when you see like a big monster and you're like, ooh, like let's see if I can take him down, and it's a little more skill based than I
Yeah.
felt Pokemon Go was. And you're totally right about like how Pokemon Go's real core kind of loop, it like what made it fun wasn't really the battling or any of that
Yeah.
stuff. It was going out and walking and finding the Pokemon and kind of catching them, be like, oh yeah, I found this Pokemon. But they
Yeah.
evolved it so much beyond that.
Right.
Um, that like they could have almost doubled down on that and made it not about the battling at all,
Hmm.
and done kind of like a Sea of Thieves thing where it's like there's like no unlock. The thing with Sea of Thieves, right, is like you can't make your character any better or any worse. Everything in that game is cosmetic, and so it's a very kind of like
Like
deep.
you got to enjoy it for what it is, kind of thing.
Exactly,
Like, it,
exactly. Like,
um, I don't
yeah,
know. I liked. I think if they didn't include battling in Pokemon Go, we would have still like wanted it. Like we would have been like, well, there's no battling. This sucks. But
yeah,
like it took them so long to like even get it to somewhere where I found it even to be like cursory interesting. Like so
yeah.
I just like yeah,
Like
but that's a whole different
yeah,
like
the
subject.
Pokemon brand really held that app on its back. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
if you stripped away the Pokemon, I mean, of course, if you strip away the brand from anything, it's going to be weaker. But if you stripped away the Pokemon from that app, it would have been really struggling. Like it would have been,
Yeah.
yeah, like
I agree. I mean, it was like the nostalgia factor, and especially like as we're like '90s Pokemon players, like as the generations progressed, I gotta say I became less interested in like collecting them all
oh
because
my god,
like Gen 1 and Gen 2 I had some familiarity with, or and so but by Gen like 5 I was kind of like, who is this? And that's just me
yeah.
because I got older.
Yeah, and yeah, and I guess now we're diverging into Pokemon, but it's like, it's 150 is very manageable, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, or even like 250, and it's like, okay, I can wrap my head around that. I can remember who they are. I can know all that stuff. But then, yeah, now you're like in the thousands, and you're just like, okay, like I feel like
Right.
you should have retired some of the old ones and been like,
Right.
hey, those are no longer available in this new area. You have to go to the old area to get those, right? All the regions and stuff like that, because it's
Yeah.
just like way too much now. But I don't
But
know.
yeah, but like going back to Monster Hunter, like I think it's something worth checking out if you're just looking for something that's like fun while you're walking around, or if if you're like me and you like to like take walks every once in a while, like it's definitely a fun little thing to try out. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely take a look.
Yeah, yeah, still very early life, so interested to see where they take it as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So as that's the mobile games of like a Kind of a little game. But as far as like what you're currently playing, like what's going on?
All right. Well, as may have been dropped, I want to say last episode I mentioned it right at our end there. Mortal Kombat 1 did come out, and I've been playing it a lot. I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan, as I mentioned before. This one came out pretty quickly. Actually, it felt like it was a pretty like fast turnaround, although it's like a couple of years of time of development, but it's I think it's been an overall win personally. I think there's kind of this discussion in the community, and the fighting game community really is a big one and a diverse one, and a lot of people have lots of complaints. A lot of people have lots of positive things to say about it. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like there's a lot of good in there. There's a lot of like things that are there to master, extremely high skill ceiling. It looks gorgeous. The story to me was really fun. And just not to spoil anything, but like in Mortal Kombat 11, the previous rendition, they did a kind of reboot of the entire story. So I won't ruin anything, but basically we're starting back at Mortal Kombat 1, as the title suggests. And so it was really fun to see the characters kind of taken into a new light and like kind of repurposed and given new story. I have completed the story at this point, and I really liked it personally. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a good length. It gave me a good chance to like try all the different characters. I loved some of the interpretations. Like I think people are just going crazy with like Reptile and Ashra, like having this like little romance. There's all these little things that are like really funny. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it so far. I'm trying to get better, although it's a slow process. But it's been a lot of fun so far. I will say though that I think some of the criticism is that it feels a little rushed. Like they definitely kind of pumped it out maybe a
Like
few months
like
before it was.
what part?
Well, basically, like it was very strongly suggested that there was going to be a 25th, or I don't even think it was suggested. I think it was said that there was going to be a 25th character on launch, which did not make the cut, and we're like 99% sure that was Ermac. So you fight Ermac and you fight Quan Chi in the story like quite a few times, and yet they're not playable characters, and so like that kind of felt rushed. There's these little things like voice lines and like intros that people like seem to like really want, which personally I wasn't like super like missing or anything, but yeah, there's just kind of like these small things here and there. People aren't super happy with this single player mode called Invasion Mode that they released. To be perfectly honest, I think it's been a little bit, you know, mid myself. But I don't really think too much into it because these games are all about that online multiplayer anyway, so I'm not really expecting a deep, like, super fun, single player experience.
Yeah, I'm not a big fighter guy myself, but Mortal Kombat is the exception. I do like Mortal Kombat. I've just been playing it for so long that I can't like help but enjoy the story and just all the character. I'm invested into the characters at this point. After like decades of playing this game and stuff like that. I haven't played it yet, but I want to jump in. We did play a little bit the other day, so I got like a taste for it, and it seemed I like the fighting seemed really crisp to me, but I'm not like a pro level player, so I guess I wouldn't really know. But what I kind of liked about it is some of the other ones that I've played is you can kind of button smash and you can kind of spaz your character a little bit. I guess you could say is like the be very quick attacks and make it kind of hard for the opponent to do any real counters, even if they're a good player. But in this one, everything seemed very deliberate to me. Would you say so? Like every attack is very slow. It's kind of not slow, but the attacks are
Yeah.
deliberate, and there's long pauses between attacks, so it gives the
Well,
opponent the chance to really punish you if you screw up.
yeah, I mean, and that's something like, if any of our listeners are, very dedicated fighting game players, like you guys know how this goes. It's they did a very good job with the basic mechanics, and then they added, with the mechanics that kind of have always worked. There's things like the, basically, like, you feel like you have the right amount of options, right?
Mhm.
You feel like you have a somewhat diverse amount of combos depending on the character you're playing, um, and then you can take those combos and cancel them into a pretty wide variety of moves. But the cool thing about this one, and honestly the hardest thing about this one, is the introduction of that cameo system they brought.
Mhm.
So if you're not familiar, basically it's like a button you hit that brings in a second character who has additional moves. And it's not like your Marvel versus Capcom where you can like swap in the character and you're playing that character now. They literally just kind of like cameo real quick. They come in, they do a move, and they get out. And that allows you, depending on who you pick for your cameo fighter, allows you to fill the gaps of your character, should they have deficiencies.
Mhm.
And there's still probably some balancing to be done there, but it really, like, from someone who used to like main just one character in MK11, and so like, after a while it was just like, hey, this is the character. Like I kind of just figured it out. Now it's like you have your character, but you have your character plus like 15 other characters, and so it allows you to create a so much less predictable kind of fighting game. That being said, everyone's been playing with one cameo so far, Serena, so that's been fun. But
Oh
either way,
yeah.
eventually it'll get more diverse and people will figure out, the
Yeah.
different things they could do.
And everyone just Googles the meta for the first like a couple months. And they're like, "What did the pro player pick?" Ah, that's what I'm picking.
Honestly,
Because
it's so silly because her cameo ability, one of them, it just throws like these. It basically just extends any combo. So it's like, why wouldn't I choose it, right? So you just
oh,
like, I do a combo, I hit her, she extends it. I do another combo, I hit her, she extends it. I do another combo, and then I jump into the air, and I do another combo, and then I do my string.
right,
And so
right.
it's like, it's just kind of like, to be honest, like, I still am having a really hard time like figuring it out, because to me, like, the fighting game mechanics are hard enough as it is. So like, I'm like, okay, if I'm really like, okay, I'll just choose her and be like, okay, I can just extend my string and get more damage. But it's been fun, and like, even just in the week that it's been out, like, I've been watching a lot of competitions, I've been watching a lot of streamers, and they're already like, oh man, now Goro's the shit. Like, I gotta choose Goro, like, because he can do this
Yeah,
crazy thing. And I'm like, yeah, like last week no one was doing that. So it's cool to see that develop, and I like experiencing the lifespan of games,
yeah.
because people are just amazing. They're just really incredible at, like, I mean, I was watching day 2 tournaments, and people are just pumping out incredible combos that require very precise timing. And I'm just like, you've had this game for, you know, no more than a couple of days. Like, oh my gosh, like, what?
Yeah,
This
right.
is amazing. And so that to me is really fun. Even if I'm not amazing at the game, it's really fun to watch other people play against each other.
That's awesome. And it, other than the invasion mode, it has a pretty solid story, right? Like it's got
The
uh
story was really fun. I really liked it, and it changes things up. So if you played a Mortal Kombat game, you're somewhat familiar with the story. You got Scorpions, whose family is killed by Sub-Zero, and Sub-Zero ends up getting killed, and not killed, but turned into to Noob Sabat. Like, all of these like canonical events that have been happening in 10 games.
right.
They've all switched it up now, and like I said, I don't want to ruin anything for anyone who's going to experience it themselves, but each character gets to take on a new role. And kind of the biggest one of those, and this isn't a spoiler because it's actually kind of, it was part of MK11, is that Raiden is no longer a demigod, right? So
Mhm.
Raiden is just a
Yeah.
guy, and Liu Kang is now the god of fire and technically lightning. And so it's really cool. Like, Liu Kang is an awesome demigod, and I think it's super fun to have him like walking around as we were used to having Raiden be the old wise Obi-Wan figure in the past.
Right, right. That is pretty cool to see that change over, the course of the storyline. They're like, "Hey, let's freshen this up. Let's try something new." And we're already creating all these different universes and stuff. Let's go ahead and change all of time.
Right. I think it was a good choice. I think it was time to like reform everything, and yeah, so I'm really excited. And then anyone who's kind of been seeing the media around this knows that like the DLC characters, we're getting Homelander, we're getting Peacemaker, like all these really like very very superhero themed DLC characters, which just reminds me of something really awesome I saw. And I pray that this Reddit user somehow listens to our podcasts and hears this, but I just saw this random Reddit post that was like, guys, I think this game was supposed to be Injustice 3, and here is my pitch. All of like he had all these reasons, but one of the main reasons was that like the DLC characters are all superheroes. So like
Oh,
Omni-Man and what's the guy from The Boys? Homelander.
yeah.
And yeah. And he was like, and the cameo system, like it's your sidekick system. Like it's a sidekick. It would have been perfect. And I was like, man, as crazy as that is, I think that's not a half bad little theory you got there.
I mean, yeah, or maybe this is like their test of it. They're like, hey, Injustice is going to come out. Let's test it in Mortal Kombat first and see how it goes. I
Totally.
mean,
And they've already said like Injustice 3 is coming out after this.
yeah.
So I look forward to that game too. I love the Injustice games. That's what really got me like really like into the more hardcore aspects of the fighting games. I just thought it was so fun to like
Oh,
run
yeah.
around as superheroes and and beat each other up.
Yeah, and the story in those ones were amazing too. Like that's actually one of my favorite DC stories is the Injustice line of
Oh yeah, it's such a
I don't
good
want to ruin
story.
anything for those who haven't seen it, but it's a
Yeah.
good story.
Yeah, no, I mean, and there's been like a few renditions at this point, and it follows the comics very closely for the most part. So yeah, it's if you're a DC fan, like it's just pure fun, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, and they have like the equipment system, which I know not everybody loves, but I kind of like that.
Well, I like it cosmetically. I don't need it to like have an effect on my gameplay.
That's true.
That's how
I
I've
agree with
always
that.
felt about
Yeah,
it.
I can agree with that. Like cosmetics are worth, it's like they don't. I think a lot of game developers don't realize that intrinsic value of just like cosmetics and stuff could go a long way in a game. You don't have to
Yeah.
make it powerful. Just a cape or something like that. I'll work really hard to get that stupid cape, even if it's just for looks.
Well, I mean, I didn't hate it in Injustice 2. I mean, we're taking a little tangent here. I didn't hate it in Injustice 2 in the sense that, like, that only mattered. Like, you almost always play. I'm trying to remember what the mode was called. It was, like, tournament mode or something. But, like, I never played a match with, like, the gear stats.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you, as soon as you went to ranked or, went online and played someone with gear stats, it was like, my guy has 20 million health and one hits you, and you're like, well, okay, like
yeah. And it's not
that's
really skill at that point. It's just like whoever's really good at looking up a build and.
right. Whoever unlocked all that equipment and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, and like when you go over to like the single player modes, like, and they have all these stupid affixes that like break the game, I'm like, okay, fine, like give me some stats, which is actually what they did in MK1. And so you actually have assignable stat points in MK1 for your character in the invasion mode. And
Oh,
I'm like
interesting.
it's fine as long as it stays in the invasion mode, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah, totally.
so that's just how I feel about it. But to be honest, I think the invasion mode is a little lacking right now, so hopefully we'll see them work on that in the coming months.
Yeah, and they're working on the balancing and stuff before they're working on all that single player stuff. So they're probably going to get to that eventually. They just want to make sure it's like tournament ready and that every little frame, every single frame of the game is accounted for, and make sure there's no like game breaking, builds or anything like that. So I'm sure they'll get around to it.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of things they're looking forward to adding. Like there's some silly things like there's some really silly things. I'm trying to remember all of them, but like you used to be able to like tag your moves in practice mode. So like you could like be like, okay, cool, I'm tagging these 5 moves, I'm gonna practice them. They don't have that anymore, and it's like
Mhm.
that seems like something you guys should have remembered to put in for release.
Yeah, they.
uh,
Yeah.
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 So and like you also can't change skins in character select, which was like another thing that everyone was kind of like, what the hell, you know?
Wait, where
So
do you do it?
you do it in your character customization screen.
Oh, so you like set it once,
Yep, you
basically.
can't change it with a button like any other fighter, you know, any other fighting game. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
agree.
Weird.
There's some rushed elements, right? Like even the matchmaking system, like, is really leaves a lot to be desired in the sense that, like, I've been watching tournaments and they're like inviting people and they're not getting the invite, and those kind of like networking issues that like they've actually kind of done really well in the past, and this one isn't working out. I fully believe, I'm a believer. I know they'll fix it, but yeah, I think that was kind of where some of the criticism came from.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, all the criticism I've heard you talk about so far has been pretty minor stuff, in my opinion. Like, it's like very nitpicky, and I get that. The hardcore players, and it's well, okay. First off, fighter game, enthusiasts are very hardcore, just like almost by
Yeah,
definition, right? Like that's like the style of the game is you have to be very calculated. Every single detail matters. Every frame matters. Every single move matters.
yeah.
So I guess
Knowledge
I
is power in that game, in these
yeah,
games. Yeah.
exactly. And that's what makes it kind of cool though. Is it's like a chess battle, but you also get to rip each other's guts out and beat somebody else with their own hand.
Right. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I just like, oh my god, it's so much fun. Like Havoc, speaking of beating people with your hand, like I've been playing a lot of Havoc, and his whole character centers around ripping his limbs off and ripping his own head off and regrowing them. It's just such a blast. So like
Yeah.
there's just something so fun about it, and I don't like when we were kids, like we had there was certain parents who like wouldn't let us play Mortal Kombat because it was
Uh,
such a gruesome game. So it just makes me laugh, like looking back at it.
I know, right? I mean, it's always tried to kind of push that, envelope of how gross and nasty can we get, and like, bloody can this be?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like,
Well, that's what I've been playing. How about yourself? What have you been playing
um,
lately?
I haven't really had a lot of chance to play anything new. I've still been playing Starfield. I've been playing Cyberpunk, trying to get ready before the patch, or sorry, before the DLC did not make it. And I've also been playing this other game called High on Life, but that's kind of an older
Oh
game that I was
yeah.
trying to, catch up on while I had a little bit of time, because we had like the last few months, I guess, it has been just like new game, new game, new game, new game, new
Mhm.
game. So I've been like in this mode of where I'm like trying to power through a game so I can like enjoy the next one and not feel like I'm like lagging behind. And so I've been in this like rush mode, and now I finally feel like, all right, I don't have any like big upcoming games that I can see on the horizon, and maybe like some random drops here or there that I'll like be really interested in, but I was like, all right, I have time now to sit back and actually like enjoy the games that I want to play and like go through my backlog. That's kind of what I've been doing in the last like little bit. So diving more into Starfield.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, have you been playing that one still?
No, I pretty much stopped. I was just like, it just like kind of like made me want to play Cyberpunk again. So
Yeah.
when Cyberpunk 2.0 came out, I just kind of like went back to that. And so yeah, but I want to hear what you think as you've put more hours into it, because people seem to just like it more and more as they do that.
Yeah, I have a lot more hours now. I'm most of the way through the campaign. I'm trying to just kind of finish the campaign because, like, I think I said in a previous episode, I never finished Skyrim, and so I was like, I'm not gonna do that with this one. I'm not gonna get like side quested to hell. I'm gonna actually try and go through and play the actual campaign so I can kind of experience that.
Yeah.
Um, so far the campaign's honestly been a little underwhelming. It like you were talking about kind of last time, you go in here, you're being hunted, you're doing this, you're doing that, and it feels all very like video gamey. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I don't know a better way to say that, but like it feels, like you're like, okay, I'm doing a quest. I'm not very involved in the story. I don't
Yeah.
feel any like a lot of emotional attachment. Like for instance, like I'll use like Ghost of Tsushima as like an amazing as a kind of example here.
Mhm.
Ghost of Tsushima, that game is not only mechanically great and everything like that, but every single quest, every storyline, you're engaged in it. And I was like, my eyes are like glued to the screen, and like, you know, you have this like this tension between you and your uncle, and you build this big relationship with him in the beginning, and they show how his relationship was and his relationship with all these people, and then as it like some get stronger, some deteriorate as you're going through, and you really feel like you know, you get hit in the emotions when all of this stuff happens. And in Starfield, it'll be like, go talk to this guy who you've never talked to before. Be like, hi, I need help, can you go do this? Thank you. And then I'll go do it, and I come back and he's like, thank you. And that's
that was I have a similar criticism for the story I played. It's I did a little bit of the is it the free ranger sheriff dude?
The free star ranger.
Free Star Rangers, thank you. And honestly, that has been way more fun than the campaign quest. Like I'm the at first I was like, okay, cool, the Constellation group is cool. They seem diverse and like, you know, like this is going to be interesting. Like I can't wait to see how these quests are. And then I've been like really bored by everything they've offered me. Like all of their quests have been, you know, just super dull. And then like I was complaining in one of our previous episodes, it was like, okay, go to this, we found a relic. Okay, I go to the planet, and then it's in a cave. Okay, all the relics have been in caves. So I go into the cave, there's a few spacers there trying to kill me. Okay, I kill the spacers, no big deal. And then I get to the relic, which is like, you know, 2 or 3 minutes into the cave, which frankly, I don't know, just feels short to me. And then I get to the cave, and then you get attacked by one of these enemies. I don't want to ruin it, but like, you know, these enemies who are hunting you. And I'm like, dude, it's just one guy. Like, yeah, I shoot him in the head like 3 times, he's dead. You know, and I'm playing on like hard mode. And then you take the relic and you go home. Like nothing happens. Like, so I was just like, that was not fun. How many more goddamn relics do I have to get?
Like a lot, right? Yeah. And yeah, so like you're part of this group, and you are trying to find the pieces of some relic that you don't know what it does. So you're like, okay, my motivation for this is I found some basically piece of scrap metal, and some group came and said, hey, you want to find the rest with us? And I said, sure.
Right.
And that's it. Like there's not much more to it, at least where I am, and I'm pretty far into it now, I think. And it's just like, all right, find the next piece, find the next piece, find the next piece. And like, sure, it's like, oh, this happens, and you know, when you find the relic and stuff like that. But and then you'll kind of do missions with the Constellation you know, people, but like none of the missions made me like care for them except for the Sam one.
Yeah, he had the most interesting one because it had to do with family, right?
Yeah.
But like everyone else, like Sarah's really weird. Like,
yeah,
like she's weird. Like, I don't know. Everyone's kind of weird and like not super likable. And so
they're kind of shallow. Their dialogue is very shallow, and like for instance, I just not just, but I did one of the quest lines with the rich guy. So there's one of the guys in the Constellation. Is like is an owner. He's like the money of the group, right? He funds everything, and so he is. He found like a piece, and so he's like, "Hey, let's go to my headquarters on this planet, and we'll go and you know, try and buy this piece or whatever." And you go, and while the mission is kind of fun, his character for being this like billionaire is really not like, it doesn't like line up.
Like a kid with a toy in that mission, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
like he's totally like the whole time he's totally like, well, this is interesting. We're being shot at. This is kind of weird. Like, I don't know. Like, and he's like, oh, they stole it from us. Let's go steal it back. And you're like, what the hell?
Are you talking about the neon mission?
Yeah, that one.
I gotta say, like, although I'll try not to like ruin anything. Literally, like, you do all these things for that mission, and then like, in the end, it's just like, okay, here's the thing.
Yeah,
okay, I persuaded him to give it to me for a discount, and he handed it to me. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, that's good. It was just like, it was like literally like I just persuaded my way out of it, which is another kind of criticism I have. I just seem to be able to persuade my way out of everything in that game.
Yeah, I basically did the same thing. So yeah, I also don't want to spoil anything, but you end up like face to face with this other guy, and he's been trying to like kill you, or basically because he wants the thing too. And um, you end up like going face to face with him, and like exactly, my character, like I basically convinced him to like, hey, I want that, and he's like, you want that? I'm like, yeah, I want that. He's like, all right, take it.
I respect that. All right.
Yeah, and I was like, we literally been spending the last like 20 minutes fighting, and now you're just like, yeah, here, fuck it. Like, and he's like, now we're friends. I was like, okay.
I like rather shot my way out of that building, right?
Yeah, or something. Like, at least make it like dramatic, right? There was no drama, and it just, I don't know.
But
everything seems kind of hollow.
It's just in contrast to like other Bethesda games, like I feel like in Skyrim or like Fallout, like I felt like there was these little hints of like good writing, and I'm not like really seeing that in Starfield.
Yeah.
But then like you'll run into a quest that's like, oh yeah, okay, that kind of felt like good that was kind of good writing. And so it's like kind of weird. It's like intermittent.
Yeah, there's definitely like, and they're all small. Is the weird thing is like in Skyrim you can have these large multi-part quests that are like really involved. Like one of the big ones is you're going and infiltrate this embassy to steal intelligence from them, to see like if they know what anything that you don't know, and all these things. And it takes like, you have to like dress up and infiltrate their building and do all this shit. I have yet to have a single mission that's more complicated than go here, do this thing, talk to this guy, now go somewhere else, do this. Like, I mean, the Neon mission, maybe if you kind of break it down into its parts, but like, it's very few and far between. Most of them are very straightforward. So like, I like the game enough to keep playing it, but I'm not like blown away. Like, I'm not like, I think like, it's like, I keep thinking like, No Man's Sky does like a lot of this better. But also worse. So it's like, I don't want to play No Man's Sky because it's kind of like, I would say kind of messy. I don't know.
The world doesn't feel alive to me in No Man's Sky. That's usually like my biggest criticism. It feels like I am in a video game in No Man's Sky. I'll say Starfield does it better. Like, I feel like the cities have some organicness to them. Like, there's like things are happening regardless of me, and I like that. I think that's fairly normal in a Bethesda game, and I think they still did that. But once I do interact, then I feel like that quest chain is really kind of boring and like really simple, like we've been saying. And so that's just like, it's so, I don't know, it's just weird to me. Like, Bethesda, I've never really had a game that really was like that with them.
It's like a mile wide and an inch deep,
Yeah, right. That's a good way to put it. But like, there's so much potential there. Like, it's so beautiful, and like the space is great. Like, I love like space combat, and I haven't done any shipbuilding, but people seem to really be liking the shipbuilding, so I'm not going to like discount that.
I want to talk about that a little bit. So like, the shipbuilding could be great, is almost great, but not quite in my opinion. Like, it's so blocky that it's like, and on top of that, so okay, one, it's very blocky, so it's like you're putting these like massive chunks together. So, which honestly, is not a massive negative to me, but we end up losing is the interior ends up becoming secondary to how it looks on the outside, because you end up building this thing on the outside, and then you like are like, all right, now I'm going to walk through it, and now there's like 15 ladders you have to go up or something, or like hallways are like super long and stuff. Like, the interior doesn't feel very natural once you start getting bigger ships. Like, once you have the starter ships, they feel fine because it's like you'll have like 3 rooms in it and like maybe 1 ladder. But when you start to get bigger ships, it immediately falls apart. And so I'm like, so I was like, okay, this needs to be reworked. Like, you need to almost be able to have them separate, like have your interior and your exterior totally separate. Like, all the room, because the way you can build it is you could, each module you predefine what it is. So you say, is this an engineer bay, is this a residence bay, is this a kitchen, or whatever. But I
Okay.
almost feel like you should be able to do that afterwards inside. Like all of the rooms should be like just a room, and then you go inside and you're like, this is now a kitchen, this is this and this, because when
Right.
you're building it on the outside you can't really see what's happening on the inside, so you have to build everything and then walk around and be like, oh, this doesn't make any sense now, and you have to kind of go and rechange it. So I
Yeah, that sounds. It's a little bit more complicated than I'm interested in exploring with the game like that. Like personally, like I'm fine just like finding new ships or going and stealing ships and and buying ships. Like I'm totally cool with that. So I know some people like that's what they enjoy in that game. Great, like I have fun, and I've seen some super cool ships, but it's just not my personal point of interest.
I mean, I wish if I like, for some reason space games are really hard, and I want to take No Man's Sky, Starfield, and Star Citizen. I want to smash them together. Only take the good parts, because well, one, Star Citizen is a fucking awful game. Nobody should ever play that game. It's a scam for money. But they
Certainly
do,
don't give them money. Yeah.
yeah. But it has like a lot of really good ideas, and the ships are awesome. But everything else sucks about that game. But I want the ships from from Star Citizen. I want the complex features like the base building and all that stuff from No Man's Sky, and I want the like beautiful world and universe and liveliness of Starfield. But
Hmm.
that's apparently is very difficult to do.
That's a big ask for sure, but
Yeah.
I have no doubt they'll make some big changes. I think honestly, I'll probably Starfield will be a game I probably revisit later down the line and enjoy a lot more later. I have no doubt, they'll make some big changes. But I think that's like a good kind of segment into the last little part I wanted to talk about
Yeah.
today, and that is the new Cyberpunk 2077
I
2.0 update. And
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that you said that playing Starfield makes you want to play that more, because I felt the same way, and so I was like, oh, I gotta get back into Cyberpunk, because this is that feels like a fun world, and the patch is amazing. So
yeah, the patch I'm not gonna lie and say Cyberpunk 2077 didn't have an incredibly rough launch. Like I think it was almost unplayable on launch. But now that I've revisited it, I've have more than 120 hours. I've beat every quest in the game. I've cleared everything. I've every gun, every site. Like I love that game so much. And then when Edge Runners came out, it just tenfolded everything. It's like make a perfect show to complement the world you created. And that's the thing is like they spent so much time. I can't remember off the top of my head the gentleman's name, but the guy who created the cyberpunk lore, I mean, it is so thorough and it is so fleshed out, and they put so much attention and effort into the details. And once they got the game working, right? and
yeah,
it's just such a fun world to be experienced in. I cannot tell you how often I just walk around, like not even doing
yeah,
anything, just
yeah,
because it's so cool just to see like, oh, like these shops and these citizens, and I'll just like find a guy like, you'll find like a guy like helping his girlfriend who's like too high, like or something, or you'll find
yeah,
like a cop threatening someone, or you'll find a gang threatening a
yeah.
stall
Or the
owner.
guy who
Like,
installed a new wing and it went awry.
yeah, I just did that quest again in my new playthrough. But like the 2.0 update really just amplified everything so much. So if you're not familiar and you haven't seen, the 2.0 update added a totally redone police system. So the police are way more responsive when you do crimes. They have way more like, I would say, effective ways of responding and like chasing you down and searching for you. They've been I've definitely accidentally gotten myself, into trouble a few times, and they definitely sit there and search for you and are a lot more difficult. I have yet to like try to like do the GTA thing and like piss them
Yeah,
off as like much as humanly possible
yeah.
and get
Steal the
max
tank.
stack
Yeah,
called on me, but I definitely will.
yeah,
But yeah,
same.
along with that, they redid the entire skill system, which to me was actually one of the biggest weaknesses of the game. They were just like, it was just like a blob of skills, and you just kind of like unlocked them. But now they actually have a structure, and the skills are a lot more thought out with how the game actually plays. So
Yeah,
instead of like 5% more headshot damage, and I'm like, okay, I mean, cool, but like now it's like you can shoot while sprinting and sliding. Okay, cool. Like that's a skill I need to think about, right? Or now your quick hacks can be stacked and you can like you can do multiple at once. I think it was called like the Q, quick hack Q. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's a dedicated thing. Along with that, now they have skills that are related to car battle, which is another thing
Yeah.
introduced, which they had planned to introduce earlier, but yeah, you get it when you get it. So now I could sit here, like I could sit one, you can shoot out of your car, but two, I could sit there and like I could like quick hack a car so that the brakes engage and they stop, or I can quick hack a car so that they like go full throttle, or there's all these like super fun things that you could do that just adds so much
Yeah,
flavor to the game.
totally. And they finally added cyberpsychosis to the game, right? So it's like in the old one, you could add as many mods or whatever as you wanted, but now there's basically like a certain amount you can handle before your
Yep.
body like gives up. And so it totally makes sense in the context of everything. And I really like that because now it's like, okay, I actually have to think about this. And if I want more cyber enhancements, I forgot what it's called, cyberware. If I want more cyberware, I have to invest in increasing the load that I can take. And so eventually you could become like, so you can't just, become this monster character without any updates, right? You couldn't just go out and buy all this stuff. Like you actually have to work for it, which I really like. So the whole game just makes more sense.
They redid that entire system, which I love. One, you can upgrade your parts with like crafting instead of having to just go find and buy the upgraded part. The cyberware is way more useful and diverse depending on like your build types and selections. You have more options. You can like, because a lot of the mods were like, oh yeah, you can, equip 20 cyberware now. Like they opened it up. And like you said, you have that limit. And so like right now my character can only take, 20 points of cyberware, and that's what I have.
Yeah.
And I think that's so awesome. And then it also adds armor, which makes people are like, man,
Yeah.
I'm decked out in all this cyberware. I should not be, afraid of a bullet. And it's like, yeah, that's accounted for now. So like, they really were able to like take some time and redo it. And I haven't started the DLC yet, but like I'm so excited to do it because I know it's just going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. It's gotten like basically 10 out of 10s everywhere I've seen. And so, yeah, I started from scratch too. So it means, there's going to be a long slug just to get to that DLC, but it's kind of a nice light at the end of the tunnel. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like I have to go through the game that I've beaten, but it's enjoyable. I like the world. The new mechanics are refreshing. It's very nice. Everything seems crisp now. Like the driving vehicles used to be awful. Now it's much better. And
I
so
mean,
it's
they
like,
redid the weapons, like the
oh yeah,
stats are all different.
I
Yep.
didn't even
Like,
talk about that. Like I love the new weapon system. Like
mm-hmm.
more games, I think need to take up like more of these kind of looter games. Because what happens is now is like each weapon, as opposed to having basically like random stats, like each weapon kind of has set stats, and then you can like upgrade them. So it's like if you wanted to like use the base pistol the entire game, you could, because you could just keep upgrading it forever. I mean, it's probably not going to have all the bells and whistles that the later guns are going to have, but
Well,
like
it just feels like how it should be, right? Because like in the previous rendition of the game, right, you get a pistol in the beginning of the game, and then you're playing the game, and then you get like the pistol that does more everything, and you're like, that's just not how pistols work in real life. Like you don't just get like a more damaged bullet, right? So now it's like, hey, like every weapon has stats, and those stats, like, you could just choose what you like. Yes, there is still like the upgrade system, so you still can make them a little bit better, but it's way more like, you know it's it's like, okay, yeah, it's not just like there's a better gun. It's you're always, choosing stats based on like what you want. Either you can have faster attack speed or you can have more damage. So,
exactly.
so I'm really enjoying like relearning all that system and everything, and just trying them all out. One thing I like is like now that I've been playing a character who's like very net runner heavy, they now get like bonuses to smart weapons, which I think is super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, they finally
Because
got a weapon.
because now I can kind of be like, okay, cool. Like before, like I didn't really see a point in using a smart weapon as long as you have halfway decent aim. You didn't really need it. And so now I'm like, okay, cool. I get advantages to using the smart weapon, and buffs to how fast it targets, which now it targets. Like it takes time to target, which is a new feature. So yeah, there was so much more thought put into how you create a build and how you progress that build. I'm just very impressed and having a lot of fun kind of just rediscovering the game.
I totally agree. Like, and you know, I just keeps like everything reminds me of something else. Like you talked about the smart weapons. Like it used to be the smart weapons were so OP, and you pick one up off the ground, and with just this like thing you get in the beginning, you basically can use it to its full extent. And now it's like, in order to really use a smart weapon, you have to like spec into it. So you can pick, you know, you can once you unlock the ability to even use one, you can use it, but it's like a little sloppy. The smart zone is smaller, stuff like that. And then as you spec into it, it gets to become that super powerful thing. So it's like it kind of shows like, hey, like not anybody can use these. You have to be this kind of like particular type of person who can pick one of these up and really dominate with it, which is what I think is super cool in the new version of the game.
Yeah, that specialization ability like feels really good so far. I got to keep experimenting, but so far it's been just so much fun. I just want to like level up everything to level 20 and be a master of everything. But you know,
Yeah,
so
is there a max level? Like I don't know.
I think it was 50.
Let me look it up.
I'm not quite sure.
Cyberpunk
They did raise it
max
for the
level
DLC.
2.0. Let's see. The maximum level after 2.0 update is 50,
Okay, I was right.
but with Phantom Liberty, it will go higher. That's
Oh, okay, yeah.
so. Yeah, I'm assuming a little bit. Let me see. I think it says they'll go up to 60 in Phantom Liberty. But honestly, like one of the first things I did in the old version and something I will do in this one is I'm going to download a mod that just unlocks the cap because I want to be a super person that can do it all. You know what I mean? Like,
It's just that kind of fun game.
like I don't see any reason not to. Like, it's not like I don't know. I'm obviously I'll play like through the campaign and the DLC without it, but then as soon as that's done, I'm unlocking the game and I'm going ham.
Yeah. Also, there's a new ending. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh no, did they change
Yeah,
something about it, or
they
is it an
added
additional one?
it's an additional one. Yeah. So
Oh,
there's like I don't know if it's related to Phantom Liberty, but I know there is another option for ending. So I was already like, oh, I'm gonna get the Reaper ending this time, and then I saw that there was another one, and I'm like, shit, now I have to play that ending twice. Meet Hanako at Embers twice in this
yeah.
run through. So
Okay. Yeah, you just got to do your save point and then
exactly.
and then do
Well,
like 3 or 400.
in my first playthrough, I did like 3 endings. I did all 3 of them. I don't want to ruin the game for anyone, but there's quite a variety of endings,
Oh,
and
I only
I
did the one.
I could not live with not knowing quite a few of them. So ton of fun, and they're all very very different, very diverse. So very impressive.
Yeah, can't wait to figure it out. Well, I think that's enough for today. We've went over our time a little bit, got excited, but got a lot of fun games. I mean, video games are fucking cool. You know, like
I agree.
I fucking love it. All right, cool. Thanks everyone for joining. And let me bring up my stupid little template. All right, thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified when we post new episodes. You can also find us on social media at Pixelated Realms or Pixelated Realms Podcast. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.